The Early Weigh-In podcast is back. Going down this afternoon is UFC Vegas 96 at the Apex, which you know what? Another middleweight headliner at the Apex. Jared Cannonier again taking on Caio Borralho. A total of 12 fights, man. Angela Hill, Tabitha Ricci in our co-main event. We got the tough finales thrown on this card as well. Won't waste too much time. We'll get down to these fights after you recap what was another losing night for us last week on the UFC 305 in Perth.
Yeah, man, we can't get away from these losing nights. We'll take a look over at yours first. It wasn't that bad. Had 1.5 units on Israel Adesanya, on Steve Erceg. And honestly, it looks like your night was going all right until that co-main main event.
Right, yeah.
You took the plus 280 stab on Jing Liang. I don't know, dude. I've faded Carlo Prates in every single one of his fights now, and I think I'm done. Walter Walker versus Junior Tafa. That was a good win. I don't think it was a controversial stoppage. If you scream in that agony like that, that's on the ref to stop that.
Yep.
Man, I guess I'm just happy that I didn't hit this for like my full max play, because I was really close to putting 4 units on Josh Culibao, Ricardo Ramos. You hit it as well, and he just some terrible fight IQ, man.
Don't get me started on that, dude. He deserved to lose that fight.
That's a tough one. Great play on Casey O'Neill, man. Just dog money, lower level fight in her home.
Won every round.
Yeah, I think that was a good play. Kenan Song, Rick Glenn, minus 175. It hit. I'm not sure I played it. I don't know. It's one of those things. Let's see. Hooker, scorecards, no action, plus 165.
Couple knockdowns and stuff look good.
Yeah, absolutely. Burns sub round 1, Burns sub round 2, Jenkins round 2, and then Jenkins round 3. You pretty much covered that fight from every single angle, and one of them did end up hitting. Profited like at least half a unit on that fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then minus 0.79 units total on the night. Not a terrible night. You want to see a terrible night? We'll scroll over to my card. I had 2 units Israel Adesanya, 1 unit Jing Liang, 1.5 units Joshua Culibao. That's just the first 2 are terrible. The Culibao one, it's just a tough one to get over. Under 2.5, Dan Hooker, Mateusz Gamrot. Reyes wins by TKO round 1. He wobbled him in round 1 and at plus 3,100. I'm playing that again, dude. I really am. Let's see. Song to win and Erceg to win. Just wasn't there. Fight goes the distance, and the Luana Santos Casey O'Neill was the only fight that I hit. And it was the only super juice that I was paying. Fight ends by TKO, Walter Walker, Justin Tafa. Tafa, dude. I should have known he could get subbed by anybody, man.
Right.
Tuivasa versus Rosenstruck. Fight doesn't start round 2. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anybody expected to go to decision. So
right.
Tough one. Whatever. Certainly okay with getting away from that. I just clicked out of it. I know it was a little over 8 units negative. I'm not going back to look at that. Let's see. Starting off the night, we go to a debutante in the flyweight division. Kong Wang taking on Victoria Leonardo. Kong Wang, a kickboxer, looks like she's a massive favorite at minus 1,300. She's 32 years old, so it's not like she's super young. She has a pretty extensive kickboxing background. She's fought Valentina Shevchenko. Did she beat Val?
Yeah, she beat Val in like a kickboxing Muay Thai fight or something,
Yeah. So beat Valentina Shevchenko, and she's going up against Victoria Leonardo, who's 1-3 in the UFC. She's a decent kickboxer herself. She has decent wrestling, but probably can't get this fight to the mat where I think that she'd need it to be to have any advantage over Kong Wang. Kong Wang being this big of a favorite, I think a lot of people are going to expect her to absolutely dominate, but she doesn't really throw enough volume for me to want to back her here. I think that she's supposed to win by finish, but I'm a little doubtful that she does. And people are expecting that because Leonardo has been knocked out a few times in her last few losses. And I'm just not sure that that's going to come. So I've got Kong Wang by decision here, which is maybe a little bit on an island, calling her by decision, but it is a girl fight, and I just don't think that she's going to get it done inside the distance.
Yeah, I do think she's going to get it done inside the distance. I think a 2-3 TKO is on the table, and more of the quit I see in Victoria Leonardo rather than the power and stuff coming back from the Kong Wang side. If this was any girl besides Victoria Leonardo, I might take the flyer. I don't see how you get to minus 1,300 on a debutante who's got as low level record as she does. I think you remove that Valentina win in Muay Thai, and this is much, much closer of a fight. When I look over at the Victoria Leonardo side, Miranda Maverick, Erin Blanchfield, Manon Farrow, Natalia Silva. I mean, those are 4 of the best prospects, young prospects the UFC has, and those are like 4 of her 5 losses on her record. I'm not sold that Kong Wang is going to go out here and just walk through her like the line indicates, but I do think the power, the striking ultimately make Leonardo kind of quit in rounds 2 or 3. So Kong Wang's the side for me. Hate the number. Zigomontis Ramoska taking on Nathan Fletcher at 145. Just being honest with you, man, I haven't dug into this fight whatsoever. Did not even see that this one got added. Ramoska looks like he's be the bit bigger guy. I'm going to take a flyer out and say he might have some grappling success against a English guy here, Nathan Fletcher. Tapology shows a guy used to be a lightweight versus a bantamweight. The size is going to be, I think, evident maybe on fight day, not so much at weigh-ins, but I think Zigomakis could be a little bit stronger in the clinch, uses grappling. I like him by decision the more I think about it here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is more of a judo grappler versus a jiu-jitsu guy, and I think Zigomontis has a lot of upside to land on top whenever they do go to the ground. If it does stay on the feet, I think that he's got a little bit more developed striking game. He seems to use his range with straights and head kicks, and he does have some power. Not a completely developed fighter, in my opinion. He's still only 27 years old. And Nathan Fletcher, again, it's like I think that he's pretty good. He'll beat the lower level of competition in the UFC. One of his key wins is Colin Loughran, and that's kind of the type of guy that I think that he has upside to beat in the UFC. But when you get guys who can do a little bit of everything, who's a little bit bigger like Zigomontis, I do think that he probably edges out quite a bit of this matchup, over 100 times. So I'd slightly lean Ramoska as well, but not a play for me. I didn't really do too much research on it. Let's see. Moving up to the bantamweight division, we have Josiane Nunes taking on Jacqueline Cavalcante. Josiane Nunes, heavy-handed, little small for the division, not a lot of grappling. If she was only matched up with girls that were striking, it might look better for her. But they seem to continue wanting to test her here. She's getting, not the best matchup, but still one that I do think that she could capitalize on. I think of Jacqueline Cavalcante, and if I'm not mistaken, P, correct me, in that Zara Farn fight, she had her dead to rights and just couldn't finish a rear naked choke. Or am I thinking of a different? Yeah.
No, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a little worried about that. It's just one of those things where even though she can get to the position, she doesn't really have the physicality that I want her to have as a woman. Josiane Nunes is like one of those girls where she hits you harder than most every girl on the roster. So there's upside for her to catch Cavalcante if Cavalcante can't keep range and wind up on top if it ever does go to the ground. But I think Cavalcante should edge this one out. Don't really love the price tag though. It's kind of low level women, so it's a layoff fight for me.
I'm big on the Cavalcante side today, man. I had a lot going on this week. Really regret not hitting her at like minus 170 when it was earlier this week. I'm probably still going to get a play on her here, man. I think she has, outside of a women's KO, which I'm just not really into banking on in the UFC, I don't know how Josiane wins this fight. She doesn't have the cardio edge. She doesn't have the volume edge. She doesn't have the size edge. She doesn't have the grappling edge. I personally think that Cavalcante's got her covered everywhere. and Josian's going to really, really struggle to get on the inside to land any of her big shots. If Jacqueline's smart, I do think she could really make easy work of her on the ground. So I'm on the Cavalcanti side. Likely going to find myself parlaying her today, man. Moving on up the card, we stop in the men's 55 division where we see Vyacheslav Borshev, Slava Claus, taking on James Lontop. Both guys coming off pretty embarrassing performances last time out, Borshev pretty much got the brakes beat off of him by Chase Hooper, and James Lontop was a big favorite. Took a short notice debutante guy and Chris Padilla, who chokes him out in round 1. So both guys looking to get back on track here. I personally think if you take that Chase Hooper fight off of Slava Claus's record, and he is a massive favorite in this fight. But that fight against Chase just wasn't a good look for me, man. He got dropped, whether he's chinny or whether he didn't see the shot coming. He was in that massive war where it went with the draw with Sadikov. I don't know if the damage is, taken up on him from the wars, all the kickboxing career. Not really sold on the chin of Slava. Obviously not sold on his ground game. I think James, if he gets on the inside, has the power to hurt Vyacheslav. But I think on the outside, this is Slava Claus's fight all day. I think he's worlds better than James Lontop on the feet. And if he sticks at range, probably should get this job done. So I'm on the Slava Claus side.
Yeah, it's a big if. I would agree that his kickboxing is way more polished than Lontop, but I think that Lontop could probably push the pace and get the fight that he wants with Vyacheslav. Slava Claus just doesn't do a great game plan. He'll more than happily throw down and just trade shots with people, and I think that plays right into Lontop's win conditions. Because Slava Claus isn't going to be able to really expose Lontop's ground game. I think that the fight will play out closer than it should, and it's a layoff or dog shot for me on Lontop, but it's just going to be a messy fight, and I'm already about to get my hands really dirty with this next fight, so probably lay off that one. Moving up to the middleweight division, Jose Medina from Bolivia taking on Zach Reese, and man, they've got Medina at plus 450 right now. It's I told you, it's just a tough one to pass up. Neither one of these guys are deserving of a minus 500 or more against somebody with a pulse. Like Zach Reese, look, at the end of the day, Cody Brundage did beat you. It was a crazy finish. Like, we don't see a lot of slam KOs, but he did beat you, and you've never seen out of the first round. Like, there are still a ton of unknowns for Zach Reese, even though he's looked great in the couple minutes that we've seen him. For Medina, I just feel like the UFC, Dana specifically, took a flyer on him by signing him to the UFC. They put him on a health plan. They got him down a weight class. He does look cut up. It looks like it's his rightful weight class. And, if he can take the shots from that big old Russian up at whatever, 205, I think that he's going to be able to take the initial pressure from Zach Reese. And if he can just extend this fight, I think he covers my plus 450 price tag. So that's why I'm going to take at least a flyer on him. Trying to talk myself out of 2. It's just 8, 9 units sounds way better than 4. So I'm trying to tell myself 1 unit stab is good enough, but this is a super low level fight, and I think that there's a lot of ways that this goes down. So give me the dog here on a pretty unpredictable fight.
I could be getting greedy. I plan on potentially trying to find a way on the dog as well, but I think I'm going to do it live. I really don't see the world where Jose Medina wins round 1 against Zach Reese. I feel like Zach Reese is going to get the finish in round 1 or will win round 1 at a very large clip. I don't necessarily know what it is, but the UFC seems to like the guy. They give him Cody Brundage first fight. Then it's Julian Marquez, a guy who's old, injured, and stuff in a second fight. And you get a round 1 finish against Marquez, and they give you a step down in a dude who lost on the Contender Series and Jose Medina. So it's like the UFC seems to kind of like Zach Reese, put him in these spots to win. But I'm 100% with you, man. Where the value is the Jose Medina side. You've never seen Zach Reese outside of round one. He's shown me fight IQ to hold on to a triangle while someone's trying to slam him. He's 100% beatable. I don't know if it's this time around, but I would not mind jumping on like a plus 600-700 live on Medina to see if this got interesting in the rounds 2 or 3. Prelim main event, Dennis Buzukja taking on Francis Marshall. Francis Marshall stepping in here on short notice. Marshall's a pretty good prospect, man. Young, tough, pushes a good pace, has good top game, good wrestling. I just think Dennis Buzukja, while he's not that good, he's decently well-rounded. You know, he can kind of do everything a little good, comes from a good camp. I know I can trust his cardio. He's the one here with the full camp. I kind of lean the Dennis Buzukja side. You know, as this is Francis Marshall stepping up on short notice, I do think this fight is close to a 50-50. So I'm going to side with Dennis Buzukja at like plus 120. I think that's where the value is. I actually was tempted on betting him plus 200 against Danny Silva. So I'm going to stay on the Dennis Buzukja side here for today. You're on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, the only thing that's keeping me off of Marshall is that he is coming in short notice. I'm not very high on Dennis Buzukja at all. I think he comes from a good gym, but we just saw in that Charlampos.
Yeah, I was just about to say Gregorio, whatever.
Yeah, it's like that doesn't mean much, man. And so, like, from what I can tell, he is not great. I like Francis Marshall and the fact that I feel like he is more dominant with his wrestling. So he has, you know, something that he can go to every single time, where I feel like you said, Dennis Buzukja, kind of one of those guys who's decent everywhere. So it's not like he can resort to his bread and butter whenever he does start losing in one realm of MMA, where Francis Marshall can always resort to the wrestling, and he's going to have a pretty significant advantage over somebody in Dennis Buzukja. Francis Marshall, another guy who kind of weaponizes his cardio. So I'm not too worried about him, getting tired as well. It's simply the short notice pickup that's making me lay off this fight. But Francis Marshall, let's see what his. Yeah, I've got to pay juice for him, and I'm just not into it. So give me Francis Marshall. I think he should be like minus 160, minus 170, but it seems like the line, there just isn't any juice worth the squeeze, you know?
Yep.
Let's see. Moving up to the first fight on the main card, our main card opener, Edmund Shabazian taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Another unfortunate dog shot I think I'm going to have to take. I've seen Gerald Meerschaert get melted a couple of times, and this could be one of those times, but I feel like there's if I bet Jose Medina and I bet Gerald Meerschaert, I think one of them fuckers are going to be able to withstand their opponent's early pressure and kind of pull something out. Edmund Shabazian, kind of a notorious quitter. Meerschaert, if he can withstand that early pressure, he's kind of one of those guys who has a heart that he could dig into and pull something out. So, I'm not convinced that Edmund Shabazian has cleared up any of the glaring holes that he's had and kind of been exposed for in the last few years. And I do think that Gerald Meerschaert still has a little bit of fight left in him. He's 36 years old. Yeah, he's lost a lot, but I think that he has a lot of experience, and he knows he just has to get past this initial onslaught to kind of take over and weaponize his experience to be able to take over the fight. So give me Gerald Meerschaert by submission. I do think that he's worthy of a stab this week.
Gonna be there with you, man. I feel like it's almost reminds me of the Jenkins and Burns fight last week, whereas Edmund's going to come out here and probably get on him early with the speed, the youth, the kickboxing, and the power and put him away. Or if this slips into round 2 and 3, I think Gerald's absolutely live to submit him. Round 2 plus 1,700 by sub, round 3 plus 1,800 by sub. I think those are stupid numbers for a guy who's got 28 of his 36 wins by submission. His last 8 in a row have all come by submission. At one time, this guy had 3 or 4 in a row that were in the third round. He's tailor-made for comeback victories, man, and I'm pretty sure that's what we're going to see again today. So I'm probably going to take a small stab, Meerschaert sub 2-3 at those good numbers. Moving on up, Michael Morales taking on Neil Magny. Man, this is tricky because I'm always going to take the shot on Magny at this price against these prospects, and we did it against Mike Malott and things. I just think Michael Morales hits a little bit too hard, is a little bit too athletic, can fall back on the wrestling if he needs to. I think Michael Morales is a really solid prospect, man. And while this is his hardest test to date, the line's a little bit crazy. I don't think Neil Magny is gonna edge this one out. So give me Michael Morales. He might even find the finish on Neil Magny, who I do think slowing down at this stage of his career. Back on mute.
Are you taking the shot on Magny?
I don't know, man. Probably not.
I don't think that he gets the finish. I think that there's a lot of people laying juice on him getting the finish that aren't gonna. It isn't gonna happen. Like I've seen Michael Morales be very comfortable sitting on the outside and jabbing for 15 minutes. He's not the most exciting fighter, and I think it's kind of odd that the UFC wants to give him a guy like Neil Magny who gives issues to anybody he fights. Like he's just an awkward matchup, and it doesn't seem like a fight that Michael Morales is going to be able to showcase his skills and really break out as this superstar at 18-0 if he gets this win. It's just an odd matchup for me. I think that Neil Magny will also be fine just sitting on the outside, getting jabbed and taking 15 minutes to try and figure out how to get inside of the reach of Michael Morales. So I think it's a 15-minute jab clinic. I think that there's a lot of people that lose on the inside the distance. And I don't think that Morales is going to cover minus 900 because I feel like you have to get a finish to be able to do that.
Me too.
Man, all right. Now we're going to some people that I just did not look too much into. Cannonier taking on Marion Santos at 145 pounds. Santos has never been one that cuts weight well. I think he missed it on the Ultimate Fighter. Then I saw earlier this week he's kind of cheating in weigh-ins, only putting half of his foot on the scale. But either way, he did make the weight technically. So he is here. I think he's going to be a little bit bigger. I saw face-offs. He looks a little bit bigger. I mean, Cannonier is in great shape, but Marion Santos, he's the favorite. He looks a little bit bigger. He did make weight. I'll take him slightly, but with no conviction at all.
On the Marion Santos side, man, I'm with you. Didn't watch Tough. Couple switch arounds. Don't have too much I can even add to you on this fight. I did dig in a little bit to the middleweight Tough finale here between Ryan Loder and Robert Valentin. Valentin was like one of the first guys to fight on the season, and I did watch like the first episode. This guy comes to fight. I do feel like he's a inside the distance or bust kind of guy. He doesn't have much process to him. He's puts on a good pace early. I'm unsure how long he'll be able to keep that up, but he is dangerous early, man. He comes to swing. He comes to throw down. The kissing Katami that he put on in the semifinals was sick, and that was after being hurt. The guy's got a ton of heart to him. You see him. He's almost like a Jerry Prohaska to an extent with his black magic and his going out in the woods and tripping shrooms and stuff. That's kind of what he reminds me of with all the gods and stuff that he's talking about trying to please with his fighting. He's a cool dude. For the sport, I kind of hope the UFC keeps him around because I think he's going to be a cool fighter. But Ryan Loder, man, I think does have the better process to him. I think he's got the better gas tank. He's got the wrestling he can fall back on here. And so if this fight does slip out of round one, if Ryan Loder is still there, I do think the wrestling is going to start to take over. Kind of want Robert Valentin to win just because I think he's a more exciting fighter. I think early on he might put Ryan Loder in some trouble. But I think Ryan Loder is going to dig deep, man, and win rounds 2 and 3. I'm on the Ryan Loder side.
I'm also on the Ryan Loder side. I think majority of the time he gets a decision win here. But there also is a bunch of win condition for Valentin early. I think he's wild enough, and the striking defense of Loder is questionable enough that he could certainly catch him early. But as that wrestling wears on him, I do think that we start to see Loder start to pull away in this fight. So Loder's the pick for me. But
What do you think
I
about
wish I
this?
maybe I spend a little bit more right after we get off of this because he is a dog. Like, I like a wrestling upside dog for sure. And yeah, that's certainly a possibility for me. I might end up getting on it after this.
I
You
was
got
just
anything to
looking
add?
at, yeah, I was just looking at a Ryan Loader decision only plus 130. I feel like if this fight goes to decision, it's going to him at a very high clip, and
Yeah.
I don't know, something I kind of look at. I don't know if he, Robert
I'll,
Valentine, I feel like's the finish side here.
yeah, if it makes you feel any better, I'll be playing that for
Cool,
sure.
like it.
Moving up to the co-main event, Angela Hill versus Tabitha Ritchie. This is a really closely lined fight, and for good reason, man. Like, Angela Hill, she's pushing 40 years old. She began her training late in life too, so it wasn't like she had a ton of fight miles even before she transitioned into MMA. She's got a solid kickboxing base. I think if this stayed on the feet the whole time, she has a really good opportunity to make this fight close. But Tabitha Ritchie has all the grappling upside, in my opinion. She's very complacent, like just keeping her opponents up against the fence, wearing on them, and then just kind of banking rounds. It being a girl in Angela Hill who makes people work, is notorious for getting into close fights. It's not one that I feel like I can capitalize on by any means, but if it were minus 110 either side again, I'd probably just play a unit on Tabitha Ritchie, but with her being up at minus 130, I think the line's probably accurate and just a layoff fight for me. I hope she gets the win because I'm tired of seeing Angela Hill, and I like Tabitha Ritchie. So
Yeah, I feel like this co-main event spot is to showcase Tabitha Ritchie, the very good-looking one of the two, the one who's dating the Callum Walsh guy who's constantly on Fight Pass and stuff as well, not the almost 40-year-old Angela Hill who's got the almost 500 record. I'm with you, man. I see a ton of grappling upside. I think the power upside on the feet comes from Tabitha Ritchie. I think she's a little bit faster as well. And I see a lot of talk with Angela Hill, like cardio. I don't think Angela Hill's cardio is that superior to Tabitha Ritchie. I think we just see Angela Hill get girls like Luana Pinheiro, Amanda Lemos, girls who are really front-loaded heavy, and then we see her cardio take over late. I think that's the matchmaking. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think the cardio is fairly similar. I like Tabitha Ritchie as well, man. If it was a pick 'em, probably see me play her straight. But they are offering the plus 3.5 on her side at like minus 290. Might find that as some type of little parlay leg for me this week. And last but not least, main event. It's always middleweights in the Apex, man. Jared Cannonier taking on Caio Borralho. And strictly because of that, I'm so tempted to take a shot on fight goes the distance here, man. How many times do I got to see 185s go the distance and get plus money on that constantly? So I'm tempted to look at that there. Up until last fight, Jared was a very durable guy, but he got caught by the Russian sniper, someone in Imavov who's very, very accurate with his hands, very fast with his hands. And while Caio has that kind of bouncing around karate style, I don't think he's as live to land the KO here. If I feel like if Caio is going to get this win inside the distance, it's likely going to be by sub. Watching Jared Cannonier's fights back this week, he hasn't really fought a lot of straight jiu-jitsu guys, but Derek Brunson did have him in some dangerous positions in round one, including having the back with the rear naked choke. So that does kind of give me the worry that if Caio finds that position, he is going to finish it. And then last but not least, the only thing I want to add to this is Jared used to be a heavyweight, a light heavyweight. When these dudes squared off at the weigh-ins the other day, holy shit, Caio Borralho is huge, dude. He is massive. And I think when he gets a hold of him, he might find the finish by sub. So it's a Caio sub if there is a finish here, but I also think there might be a little value on goes the distance. I'm on the Caio Borralho side, man, to get his first big win, cement himself in the top of the middleweight division.
Yeah, so I have a lot of similar views, mine with a little bit more conviction. I'm on the Caio Borralho side. I think that he gets this done relatively easily. When the fight gets on the ground, I don't think it takes long for Jared Cannonier to give up some positions that Caio can take advantage of. You talked about Jared Cannonier being durable up until his last fight. I was there, and it was like 2 months ago, dude. That's an awful. I mean, like that's crazy that he's coming back at 40 years old after 2 months of getting knocked out. So because of that, I don't think I want to get greedy, and I think that I'm going to take Borralho inside the distance. I don't disagree that there is a lot of upside for it to go to the scorecards. I just don't think it's going to be this fight. I think that there's going to be opportunities for Caio to expose Cannonier, who could be on the decline. It's never a good sign whenever somebody with excellent durability is trying to get that fight right back after coming off of one of his only finish losses. And I think that we're seeing evidence of that right here. Caio Borralho, he's had like 3 or 4 co-main slots or main event slots. Like the UFC likes him. I think that this is finally an opportunity to kind of give him somebody who has name value that can propel him into bigger fights. And I think that they're tired of Cannonier, man. Like it seems like every time that he's getting up, he was flatlining people, and now it just seems like he's more than happy to go 5 rounds. And I just don't think that Borralho is going to give him the fight that he wants, because Borralho, coming from the fight camp that he does, they're going to put together a good game plan. They understand that Jared Cannonier's only win condition is on the feet, and I don't think they're going to give him that opportunity. So
yeah,
give me Borralho, give me inside the distance, because I do feel like if there's something funky about this fight, it's people getting greedy on plus 300 for the sub when you're still getting like a decent plus money number on the inside the distance for Borralho. Questionable chin. Give me Borralho for sure.
Yeah, man, fighting nerds are on an absolute tear right now with Borralho, Prates, John Silva got me back-to-back weeks, a couple weeks back. Yeah, not fading the fighting nerds. I'm on the Caio side too, man. That's all 12 fights going down this afternoon. Appreciate you talking fights with us this Saturday morning. Do us a quick favor, like, subscribe. I think we got a break next week, then we'll be back. See you guys.
Sounds good. See you.